Tom Hunt, look, I know you have been a big supporter of Boris Johnson, so I imagine that this was very difficult for you to rebel, but you needed to do it, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. It was a difficult day for me on Tuesday, and for many colleagues. We continue to be supportive of the Prime Minister. We are, rooting for him. Absolutely. But, COVID is a completely unprecedented issue, not something that any of us really expected to be voting on when we became members of Parliament. But ultimately, for me, I'm just very deeply concerned about where I think we may be heading when it comes to COVID. And it does feel at the moment that we are in something that is increasingly resembling a lockdown, whether it's called one in law or not. You just have to drive around anywhere in the country now, and it doesn't feel too dissimilar from what it was like when we were in the last full-scale lockdown.
No, I completely agree. And so what's next? What is next? Is this rebellion a sign to the Prime Minister, don't even go there with Plan C?
Well, look, I mean, we don't know for sure what's going to happen with Omicron. I mean, what I hope will happen is that it will come out that actually this is a much milder form of COVID than other strains. It is transmissible, but actually, I hope that there isn't going to be the level of pressure put on hospitals than some people have been suggesting. So hopefully, at that point, we can get rid of the restrictions that were voted through on Tuesday. We can learn from the whole episode, and going forward, when there is another strain of COVID that potentially has 31 or 32 mutations, we will respond to it in a way which is very different from how we've responded to this particular variant.
Exactly. Did you see the front page of the Mail, which I just showed earlier, saying that senior Tory MPs believe the Prime Minister has to rein in Christopher Whitty, who it feels at the moment, Tom, is sort of running the show. Do you agree that he has to take a step back and let Boris take charge?
What has frustrated me about, obviously the scientists are going to, feed into the government decisions here. That's understandable. But particularly with some of the members of the SAGE committee is, my view is, if you are on that body, it's a privilege to be on that body and you're on it because of your expertise, and you should absolutely feed into government decision making. But I don't think you should try and bounce ministers into making decisions. I mean, frankly, I'd be surprised if there's any SAGE minutes that haven't been leaked. They all appear to have been leaked. And one can only suspect that sometimes, most of the time perhaps, that's done deliberately. These are incredibly complex decisions. Yes, we've got to take into account public health and the threat that any virus may pose. And it seems with Omicron this is less so than other strains. But we also need to take into account the devastating impact that lockdowns have on many individuals, including some of the most vulnerable individuals in our country. I mean, over the last few weeks, we've been hearing some tragic stories where where young children have been exposed to brutality, and that has been made more likely because of lockdowns and the kind of bizarre environment in which we've been living. So we've got to have a balanced discussion that looks at the devastations that lockdowns bring into livelihoods. I mean, right now, the economic damage that is taking place all over the country as a result of what feels like a lockdown, even though in law it isn't technically one.